They called me selfish. They called me cruel. But I had no other choice. To save my life, to claim my peace, I had to disappear without a trace. My name is Chloe, and I'm 24 years old. 3 months ago, I thought I had finally made it. I'd signed the lease on a beautiful, south-facing apartment in the West Loop of Chicago. Exposed brick, industrial chic, the whole 9 yards. It was a proper adult apartment, miles and a world away from the manicured lawns and relentless suburban scrutiny of my parents' home. I was starting my career as a financial analyst, the kind of demanding job my mother, Eleanor, always worried would turn me into a workaholic with no time for a proper husband. This was my space, my sanctuary, a $2,800 a month statement that I was independent. The problem started with the key. On move-in day, amidst the chaos of boxes and the smell of fresh paint, my mother paused, her hand outstretched. "Just for emergencies, sweetie," she'd insisted, tucking a perfectly highlighted blonde bob behind her ear. The same gesture she used when she wanted to soften a demand. "What if there's a burst pipe? What if you trip and fall, and we need to call 911 but the door is locked? We need access, honey. It's what parents do." I knew, even then, that it was a test, a tiny wire tether she wanted to keep attached. But she looked so earnest, so concerned, and I was too tired and too eager to just unpack to argue. So, I handed over the spare key, watched her clip it onto her keychain next to a ridiculously oversized decorative key fob, and told myself it was fine. She meant well. Parents worry. I should have trusted the knot of anxiety that formed in my stomach then, because 2 weeks later, I walked into my own home and felt like a stranger. I'd just finished a brutal 12-hour day, and all I wanted was my meticulous late-night routine. Shower, a cold glass of wine, and a perfectly pulled shot of espresso from my high-end Breville machine. I stood in my kitchen, my briefcase slipping to the floor, and stared at the espresso maker. The small stainless steel canister that I used to store my specialty, single-origin Ethiopian Yirgacheffe beans, the kind that cost $30 a bag and tastes like a dream, was open. And next to it on the counter was a half-used bag of the cheapest, generic brand coffee grounds from the suburban grocery store my mother frequents. My heart started to race. My meticulously set smart thermostat was another clue. I keep my apartment a crisp 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The screen now glowed a sweltering 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And finally, sitting on a designer ceramic plate, was a small pile of my mother's infamous, dense, homemade banana nut muffins. I had been violated. My phone vibrated. A text from Mom. "Hope you found the coffee and the muffins. I used the last of those fancy beans to test your machine. It was making a funny noise. Switched you to a proper blend. Stop over and drop off the plate soon. Love you." I called her immediately. "Chloe, did you try a muffin? I used the new secret ingredient from that cookbook club I joined." Her voice was breezy, completely immune to the severity of the situation. "Mom, you can't just let yourself into my apartment," I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Oh, come on, darling. I was in the city for that antique fair, and I know you haven't had a proper breakfast all week. I had the key. That's what it's for." "The key is for emergencies," I corrected, each word precise and strained. She laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound that made my ears ring. "Well, you drinking that bitter, burnt coffee sludge is an emergency to me. And your apartment was freezing. It's almost winter. You'll catch pneumonia. Now, did you at least reset the thermostat? I put it up to a proper temperature." "That's not the point, Mom. You need to call first. You need to ask my permission to enter my home." "Chloe, honey, don't be so dramatic. I'm your mother. I've known you for 24 years. I don't need an appointment to see my own daughter. I was just helping. I'll talk to you later, sweetie." She hung up before I could land another sentence. I stood in my kitchen, clutching the phone, taking deep, ragged breaths. I convinced myself I was overreacting. She was just being a mom. An overbearing, boundary-stomping mom, sure, but she meant well. The muffins were, annoyingly, delicious. The sense of dread, however, was far more potent than the sugar. I should have trusted my instincts then. I should have driven straight to the suburbs and demanded that key back, because 2 weeks later, things escalated to a point I could never have anticipated. It was a Saturday morning, and I was running late to meet a client. I stumbled into my bathroom, ready for a quick shower, and stopped dead. Sitting on the pristine white ceramic sink, next to my minimalist hand soap, was a bulky, brightly colored bottle of men's aftershave, the kind with a ship on the label that my brother Michael always used. And stuffed clumsily behind the waistbin was a cheap, sweat-stained University of Illinois sweatshirt. Definitely Michael's. My 20-year-old brother, who was supposed to be in Champaign finishing up his degree, had apparently spent the night in my apartment without me knowing. I felt a cold wave of panic wash over me. My phone rang as I was staring at the bottle, like it was a murder weapon. It was Mom. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did Michael remember to leave you a thank you note? I told him to at least make the bed before he left." The casualness in her voice, the matter-of-fact assumption of control, was what truly broke me. "You gave Michael access to my apartment without asking me?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Chloe, he's your brother. He had a late-night interview for an internship downtown, and the dorms are hours away. You would have said yes anyway. I had the key, and you're always at work, so what's the big deal?" "The big deal is that this is my home. You can't just..." "Oh, don't be so sensitive." He slept on the couch, was gone by 6:30 a.m., and all he did was use your guest shower. You weren't even there. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Family helps family, Chloe. I don't care if it's Michael or Dad or the president. You cannot give people access to my private space. This is my sanctuary. I pay the rent for this space. You're being selfish, she snapped, the familiar, stinging word hitting me like a physical blow. Your brother needed a clean, safe place to sleep for a few hours, and you're throwing a tantrum over a sweatshirt and some shower gel. I don't know what's gotten into you since you moved out, but this self-absorbed attitude needs to stop. And then she hung up. I sat on the closed toilet lid, feeling sick. Was I being selfish? Was I overreacting to the people who loved me most? They weren't strangers, they were my family. But the violation, the absolute lack of respect for the concept of my personal space, was a visceral, suffocating feeling. I called Michael. "Hey, Chloe. Mom said it was cool if I crashed at your place. Thanks, by the way, that couch is way better than my dorm bed." "Michael, you need to ask me, not Mom. I'm the one who lives here." "But Mom has a key. I figured she cleared it with you." That phrase again, "she has a key," as if the physical possession of the key superseded my rights as the leaseholder and the adult owner of the space. They genuinely didn't understand. None of them did. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' home. It was the same familiar, impeccably maintained colonial I grew up in, complete with my dad's meticulously washed Ford F-150 parked in the driveway. My father, George, was in the garage, wiping down the truck. "Chloe, what a nice surprise. Everything okay?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Dad was the quiet one, the reasonable one, the person I felt I could always trust. "No, Dad, everything is not okay. I need to talk to you both." Inside, Mom was setting the table for an early dinner. The house smelled of her famous pot roast. "Oh, honey, stay for dinner. I made the mashed potatoes you love." "I can't. I need the spare key back." My mother's ceramic serving spoon clattered onto the hardwood floor. She turned, her face a rapid sequence of confusion, indignation, and finally, icy resolve. "My key? Why on earth would you need it back?" My father had followed me in. I felt their combined stare, a powerful, guilt-inducing force that instantly made me feel like I was 16 again, caught lying about curfew. "Because you are using it to enter my apartment without permission. You dropped off food, messed with my thermostat, and you gave Michael access to stay over without my knowledge. That key was for emergencies only." My mother's face flushed a deep crimson. "Bringing my daughter food is an emergency. Making sure your apartment isn't a freezer is an emergency. You work yourself to death, you barely eat, and you never call. And now you want to cut us out completely after everything we've done for you. I'm not cutting you out. I'm asking you to respect my boundaries." "Boundaries?" She spat the word out as if it were poison. "That's what they teach you at that fancy corporate job, isn't it? All those buzzwords, boundaries, personal space. As if your own mother is some kind of threat." I raised you. I fed you. And now you stand here in my kitchen, accusing me of what? Being a concerned parent. You're breaking into my apartment, I stated flatly. It's not breaking in when I have a key, she shouted, grabbing a dish towel and wringing it violently. Then the tears started. The same manipulative, dramatic tears that had gotten her out of traffic tickets and smoothed over every family crisis. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm your mother. I worry about you every single day. You're out there all alone in that big city, and God forbid something happens, and we can't get to you. Nothing is going to happen to me, I insisted, rubbing my temples. My father stepped forward. Chloe, I think you're being paranoid. The word cut deeper coming from him. Dad was my rock. He was supposed to be the voice of reason. We're your parents. We worry. Give us some peace of mind. He crossed his arms, his face set. We're not giving the key back. The silence in the kitchen was thick, broken only by the bubbling pot roast. You heard me, he repeated. This is ridiculous. We're keeping the key. A strange calm washed over me, the kind that comes right before an explosion. Then I'll change my locks. My mother gasped, placing a hand over her heart. You wouldn't dare. Watch me, I said and walked out. I drove straight back to the West Loop and spent the entire evening and a substantial amount of money installing new, high-security deadbolts on both my front door and the small balcony door. I felt a fleeting sense of victory. I had won. I had established the line. The victory lasted precisely 2 weeks. I came home on a Tuesday, and my briefcase slipped from my hand, hitting the hardwood floor with a startling thud. My mother, Eleanor, was sitting on my expensive, white leather couch. She had a cup of tea on my coffee table, and an open copy of Better Homes and Gardens in her lap. She looked up, smiled, and held up a shiny new key. My chest constricted, every organ squeezing into a panicked ball. Where did you get that? I whispered, my voice barely audible. I called your landlord, she said simply, setting the magazine down. Nice man, Mr. Davis. I explained that I was your mother and needed access in case of an emergency. I told him you'd been feeling unwell, and he understood completely. He gave me a copy yesterday. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of the couch to steady myself. You went behind my back to my landlord? That's illegal. That's a breach of my lease. Don't be so dramatic, Chloe. I'm your mother. I have every right to check on you. And thank God I did. Your refrigerator is practically empty. Nothing but yogurt and 2 bottles of that overpriced wine. She rose slowly, collecting her purse with deliberate, martyred movements. I cannot believe the way you're speaking to me. I came here out of love, out of concern, and this is how you treat me. You manipulated my landlord into giving you unauthorized access to my apartment. That's not love, Mom. That is control. It's motherhood. When you have children of your own, you'll understand. You never stop worrying. You never stop needing to know they're safe. There's a difference between worrying and stalking. Her face went cold. The eyes narrowed. I'll be keeping this key for emergencies. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click. Shaking, I immediately called Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, this is Chloe Shepard in Unit 3C. Under absolutely no circumstances are you to give anyone access to my apartment without my explicit, written, and notarized permission. That includes my parents. There was a long pause. I'm so sorry, Chloe. Your mother was very convincing. She said you were sick. I should have verified. It won't happen again. It did not happen again because I called a different locksmith, changed the locks again, and sent Mr. Davis a certified letter outlining my rights as a tenant and his obligations under the lease. The cost was becoming astronomical, but my peace was worth more than money. 3 weeks of peace followed. 3 weeks where I thought, maybe, just maybe, the message had finally gotten through. Then I came home on a Thursday and found the remnants of an invasion. My hands started shaking the moment I saw the casserole dish. It was her signature mac and cheese, creamy, decadent, and sitting warm on my kitchen counter. A handwritten sticky note was attached to the aluminum foil lid. You're not eating enough. Eat this. Love, Mom. My dirty laundry, which I'd left in a pile near the hamper, was gone. I walked into the bedroom, and there it was, washed, dried, folded, and stacked neatly on my bed. My dishes were clean and stacked in the cupboard. And then I saw it. My window, my second-floor window that faced a narrow alley, was wide open. The screen lay shattered on the floor beneath it. I walked over, my breathing shallow, and looked down. Attached to the brick wall of the building was an old, wrought iron fire escape, covered in ivy and sturdy enough to climb. She had climbed it. My 50-something mother had scaled a fire escape to break into my apartment to do my laundry and drop off mac and cheese. I called her. She answered instantly. "Chloe, did you find the casserole? I used 5 different kinds of cheese in that one. Did you climb through my window?" Silence. A petulant, defensive silence. "Mom, answer me. Did you climb the fire escape to get into my apartment?" "Well, the door was locked." Her voice was indignant. "What was I supposed to do? I made you a nice dinner. I did your laundry. And now you're yelling at me." "I'm yelling at you because you broke into my apartment. It's not breaking in when it's family, Chloe. You're being ridiculous. You changed the locks again. If you would just give us a key like a normal daughter, I wouldn't have to go to such extremes. This is your fault, not mine." I ended the call and immediately dialed Dad. "Hello, sweetheart." "Dad, did you know Mom climbed a fire escape and broke into my apartment through the window?" A deep sigh. "Your mother told me she stopped by. She just wanted to make sure you were okay." "She didn't stop by, Dad. She climbed a metal ladder because I refused to give her a key." "Chloe, your mother worries about you. She can't sleep at night thinking about you all alone in that apartment. If you would just cooperate, she wouldn't have to resort to this." "Resort to breaking and entering? You're making this much harder than it needs to be. Just give us a key. Let us check on you. That's all she wants." His voice hardened. "No, Chloe. We are your parents, and we have the right to make sure our daughter is safe. You're being selfish and paranoid, and frankly, I'm disappointed in you." He hung up. I sat on my couch, the place where my mother had sat uninvited, and stared at the open window. I could change the locks 100 times. I could install cameras, deadbolts, chains, bars, it wouldn't matter. They would always find a way in. They believed my independence was temporary, my boundaries were negotiable, and my adulthood was optional. They believed they had an absolute right to my life. I felt physically ill. There was only one solution left. I had to disappear. The new building stood on the magnificent mile, 40 stories of modern glass and steel, an almost fortress-like structure. The lobby was manned 24/7 by a serious-looking man named Victor, who scrutinized every visitor. The lease was a nightmare of background checks and deposits. It cost $800 more a month than my West Loop place, but it was my only shot at safety. I signed the papers on a Tuesday morning, took the key fob, and told absolutely no one. For the next 2 weeks, I planned with the surgical precision of a spy. I took a Friday off work, claiming a family emergency. I rented a moving truck. I called 2 friends, Sarah and Ben, who I'd met through a professional networking group, and who had never met my parents. "You're really not going to tell them anything?" Sarah asked, her expression a mix of awe and concern as we loaded a box of books. "If I tell them, they'll show up at the new place, or worse, they'll follow the truck," I said, my voice flat. "They broke in through a fire escape, Sarah. There's no talking to them." We worked fast. By 4 p.m., my West Loop apartment was surgically empty. Every piece of furniture, every box, every misplaced charging cable was gone. I cleaned obsessively, scrubbing the floors and wiping down the windows, making sure there was no evidence of my existence left behind. At 5:30 p.m., I locked the door and dropped the keys into Mr. Davis's mailbox. The new apartment, on the 32nd floor, felt sterile but gloriously safe. Doorman, key fob access to the elevators, and a strict guest sign-in policy. I unpacked until midnight. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Saturday and Sunday passed normally. Mom texted me a recipe for slow cooker chili. I sent back a thumbs up emoji. Dad sent a photo of his newly polished truck. I replied, "Looks great." Then on Monday, I stopped responding. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone was a missile launcher of anxiety. 8 missed calls. A dozen frantic texts, "Chloe, please call. We're worried." Is everything okay? I let it ring. Wednesday brought voicemails. Mom's voice was strained and frantic. Sweetheart, please call us back. This isn't funny. Just tell us you're all right. I deleted them without listening fully. Thursday morning, I woke up to 34 missed calls. The most recent voicemail made my blood run cold. Mom's voice was hysterical, breaking, overlaid with the hollow echo of my old apartment. We're at your apartment and it's completely empty. There's nothing here. Chloe, where are you? What happened? Oh God, George, what if something? The message cut off. I waited an hour. Let them panic. Let them feel the crushing, stomach-dropping terror of not knowing where their child was. Let them feel a fraction of the violation I'd felt every time they'd invaded my space. Then I called back. Mom answered before the first ring finished. Chloe. Oh, thank God. We thought something terrible had happened. Your apartment is completely empty. What is going on? I kept my voice steady, calm, almost unnervingly composed. That's not an explanation. Why are you at my apartment right now? Did you try the fire escape again? The line went silent. I could hear Dad's low voice in the background, muffled. Mom, I asked you a question. Which method of breaking and entering did you use this time? I heard fumbling, and then Dad's rougher, angrier voice came on the line. Chloe, what the hell is going on? Where are you? Where is all your stuff? I moved. You what? I moved to a new apartment because you two refused to respect my boundaries. You broke into my home repeatedly. You manipulated my landlord. You climbed a fire escape. That's not parenting. That's stalking. That's not. We were worried about you. Then call me, text me, ask to visit like normal people. You don't get to break into my home anymore. Fine, his voice was hard. Fine. Give us your new address. No. Excuse me. I said no. You have proven, both of you, that I cannot trust you. You have proven that no lock, no boundary, no clearly stated request for privacy will stop you from doing whatever you want. So no, I am not giving you my address. Mom grabbed the phone back, her voice an emotional wreck. We are your parents. You can't just cut us off. This is insane. You're being paranoid and cruel. I am being an adult who gets to decide who enters my home. That is my right. You took that right away from me over and over again, even after I explicitly told you to stop. You left me no choice. Chloe, please, her voice cracked, and a fresh wave of tears started. Please don't do this. We love you. We just want to make sure you're safe. For a moment, the guilt flickered. But then I remembered the cheap coffee in my Breville, the sight of my mother sitting on my couch, and my dad's disappointed face saying, we're not giving the key back. If you want a relationship with me, it happens on my terms. We can meet for coffee downtown. We can have dinner at restaurants. We can talk on the phone. But you don't get access to my home. Not anymore. You can't be serious. I am completely serious. When you are ready to respect my boundaries, let me know. Until then, this is how things are. I hung up before either of them could respond. That was 4 months ago. They still don't know where I live. The calls have gotten less frequent, but they still come. We've had coffee twice at a Starbucks near Millennium Park. The conversations were tense, stilted, filled with loaded silences. Mom cried both times. Dad barely spoke. But they haven't asked for my address again. They haven't tried to follow me home. They are learning, slowly, painfully, that I meant what I said. Last week, Mom texted me. I made the mac and cheese, the 5-cheese one. Would you like to come over for dinner on Sunday? I stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't an apology, but it was a step. The dinner was at their house, not mine. It was an invitation, not an invasion. I responded, I'll be there at 6. It's not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it's a start. It is happening on my terms, at my pace, with my boundaries firmly in place, because I am not their little girl anymore. I'm Chloe, 24 years old, living in my own safe space with a doorman and a lock that only I hold the key to.